Late in the evening, Abigail is rehearsing ballet in an empty theater. Meanwhile, a group of criminals is finalizing their plans for an impending operation. The hacker in the team disables all the security cameras at Abigail's residence, while a sniper positions himself on the rooftop. When Abigail leaves the theater, her driver picks her up, unaware that the criminals have attached a tracker to the car. As the vehicle starts moving, the kidnappers follow closely behind. With the hacker's assistance, the house doors are unlocked, allowing 3 of the criminals to sneak into Abigail's bedroom, where they hide behind the furniture. One of the criminals expresses discomfort with the plan, as it involves abducting a child, something she typically avoids. However, the others dismiss her concerns, urging her to proceed. When Abigail arrives home and gets into bed, the criminals seize the opportunity to strike. One of them attempts to restrain her, but Abigail fights back, stabbing his hand with a pencil. Another kidnapper takes over, covering her mouth and subduing her while the first criminal tries to punch her. The woman intervenes, preventing him from harming the child, and then injects Abigail with a sedative to knock her out. Outside, the other half of the team is on alert, warning those inside the house of an approaching vehicle. As the sniper keeps the incoming car in his sights, the trio inside hurriedly places Abigail into a bag and sneaks out through a window. They cross the garden and reunite with the sniper, but alarms are triggered, forcing them to make a quick escape. Fortunately, the remaining criminals arrive just in time to pick them up, and they flee without any issues. During the getaway, they check Abigail's pulse to ensure she's unharmed and then blindfold her. As they approach a busy intersection, the hacker advises the driver to take an alternate route. The driver makes a sharp turn and hides the van behind a large truck. Eventually, they reach their destination, an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of the city. There, they meet Lambert, the man who hired them. After securing Abigail to a bed with handcuffs, Lambert reminds the team of the rules: no sharing of names or personal histories, and no fraternizing among themselves. The job is a 24-hour operation. They must keep watch over Abigail until her wealthy father pays the $50 million ransom. Lambert doesn't reveal the father's identity but collects everyone's phones to prevent tracking. Before leaving, Lambert assigns each team member a codename inspired by the Rat Pack. Once alone, the group begins to relax, enjoying the drinks available in the mansion. Joey refuses to share her candy with Dean, who tries to impress the others by guessing their backgrounds, but fails miserably. When Joey mocks him, the others bet on whether she can do better. Using her keen observation of their body language, attire, and personalities, Joey correctly deduces that Frank used to be a detective, Peter is a slow-witted mob enforcer, Sammy the hacker comes from a wealthy background and does this for thrills, Rickles is a former Marine sniper, and Dean is a sociopathic driver. In return, Frank deduces that Joey is a recovering addict. Joey then checks on Abigail, who complains that her blindfold is too tight. Joey adjusts it, noticing that the handcuffs are hurting her, so she repositions them to be more comfortable. Abigail, still scared, begins to cry, and Joey reassures her that they don't intend to harm her, only seeking the ransom money. Abigail makes Joey promise not to hurt her, and Joey shares that she has a son, leading Abigail to reveal that they made a mistake because her father doesn't care about her. As Joey is about to leave, Abigail ominously apologizes for what's going to happen to her. Concerned, Joey returns to the group and tells Frank that Abigail's father might be a dangerous man. Frank dismisses it as an attempt to manipulate Joey's emotions, but later, he sneaks off to check on Abigail himself. He's shocked to find her without the blindfold and, in a panic, covers his face while pointing his fire weapon at her. Abigail swears she didn't see his face, and when pressed, she reveals that her father is Christophe Lazar, a notorious and powerful crime boss. Frank, now terrified, rushes back to the group, declaring that he's leaving. The others demand an explanation, and Frank explains that the girl is the daughter of Christophe Lazar, a name that strikes fear into the hearts of Joey and Rickles, who recognize it. A heated argument ensues about what to do next, but they eventually agree to stay and get the ransom money, which they can use to escape and start new lives far from there. They decide to secure the perimeter and lock all doors. Later, Joey hears a noise while exploring the mansion. Following it, she finds an old statue of a father and child near an open window. While closing the window, she runs into Rickles, who unsuccessfully tries to flirt with her. He admits that he doesn't trust the others, and they agree to watch each other's backs. Meanwhile, Sammy discovers a room with a TV, only to be startled by Dean, who tries to flirt with her as well. Furious, she kicks him out. Dean then finds Peter asleep and draws a crude drawing on his face. As he continues exploring, Dean stumbles upon a dark corridor lined with old photographs, including one of a girl who resembles Abigail. He then heads to the basement kitchen, where a door mysteriously opens on its own. When he investigates, a rat startles him, and as he tries to leave, an unseen force grabs his legs and drags him back. Sammy, hearing his screams, rushes to the basement and finds Dean sitting at a table. When she approaches him, his head suddenly falls off, causing her to scream and vomit. The others arrive shortly after, agreeing that Sammy couldn't have done it and recalling eerie stories about Laz's hitman, Valdez. They recount how, years ago, 3 top members of Laz's gang were captured by the FBI. The night before their trial, despite being under heavy guard on the top floor of a hotel, the agents found their decapitated bodies with no organs inside. The room had only one door, located on the 23rd floor. Growing increasingly anxious, the group checks on Abigail and finds her unharmed. Rickles, still paranoid about Valdez, tries to leave but is shocked to discover another barred gate behind the front door. Peter's attempt to force it open triggers a security system that seals all the windows, trapping the group inside. Realizing they are caught in a trap, Joey confronts Abigail, asking if she's seen anyone besides her and Frank. Abigail denies it but shares that Frank threatened her, claiming he worked for her father and revealing that his real name is Valdez. Joey, horrified, shares this with Rickles, and they piece together the puzzle, realizing something doesn't add up. As Joey prepares to leave the room, she hears a noise and notices Rickles standing awkwardly. Upon closer inspection, she discovers he has been fatally wounded, his lifeless body collapsing into her arms. Desperate, Joey rushes downstairs, confronting Frank with her fire weapon, accusing him of being Valdez and murdering Rickles. Frank pulls out his fire weapon, accusing Joey of letting Abigail manipulate her. He orders Peter to deal with Abigail, so Peter heads to the room with the intention of ending her life. But before he can pull the trigger, Joey arrives and swiftly disarms him. Moments later, Sammy and Frank also enter, leading to a heated argument. Meanwhile, Abigail effortlessly removes her handcuffs and rises to her feet. In a surprising twist, she reveals her true nature, a vampire, by performing a graceful ballet move. She then lunges at Peter, ready to bite him, but Frank shoots her. To everyone's shock, Abigail simply sits up as her wounds rapidly heal. Joey fires at her too, but it's evident that bullets have no effect, so the group quickly retreats and locks the door behind them. As they regroup, the realization hits them: Abigail was Valdez all along. The house's security system, with its magnetically sealed doors and 2-inch thick shutters, proves impenetrable, and Sammy lacks the tools to hack them. Tension mounts, and when Peter suggests slowing down, Frank snaps, grabbing him by the neck and threatening him into silence. In the end, Frank and Joey decide to fashion makeshift stakes from pool sticks, while Sammy searches the kitchen for garlic. Joey abstains, arguing that killing Abigail could provoke her father's wrath. Once armed, the trio rushes back to Abigail's room, only to find it empty. They then hear music and follow the sound to another room, where they find Abigail dancing with Dean's lifeless body. At first, Abigail feigns innocence, acting like a sweet little girl, but when Sammy attacks, Abigail pounces on her, unfazed by the garlic. Frank tries to intervene, only to be overpowered, but Peter manages to lift Abigail off the ground. However, she easily overpowers him, knocking him to the floor and seizing the cross from his necklace. She presses it against his chest, revealing that crosses have no effect on her either. Frank then attempts to stab her from behind, but Abigail swiftly disarms him and stabs his leg instead. Realizing they are outmatched, the trio retreats downstairs, where Joey tends to their wounds. She reminds them that the sedative injection worked when they initially kidnapped Abigail, and they still have a spare syringe. They agree to split up, with the plan that whoever finds Abigail first will alert Joey through their earpieces so she can administer the injection. As they begin searching the house, Sammy ventures into a dirty corridor, where she is startled by a swarm of bats. She falls into a pool and screams upon discovering it's filled with decaying bodies. Worse, she has to crawl over them to escape. Meanwhile, Abigail surprises Peter, who flees in terror and locks the door behind him. But Abigail effortlessly breaks through and continues chasing him with graceful ballet movements. As Peter runs, Frank suddenly opens a door, inadvertently knocking Peter over the railing. Abigail then turns her attention to Frank, pushing him down the stairs before pinning him to the ground. Joey seizes the opportunity to inject Abigail, but the child vampire swats the syringe out of her hand, sending it flying through a locked gate. Sammy grabs Abigail, attempting to pull her away, but Abigail retaliates by biting Sammy's arm. Abigail then grabs Frank by the leg and starts to levitate, but Peter suddenly tackles her, forcing her to drop Frank. Peter holds Abigail down while Joey retrieves the syringe and quickly administers the sedative. Abigail makes ominous threats and hurls insults at Joey before finally succumbing to the drug. Sammy, panicked, wonders if she will transform due to the bite. Moments later, Abigail awakens, now locked in an elevator. Joey tells her that if she reveals how to escape, they'll let her go. Instead, Abigail reveals that she orchestrated the entire scenario, and Lambert is working for her. She even knows all their real names and backgrounds. Abigail reveals that Sammy started her criminal career by siphoning money from her wealthy parents' bank accounts, eventually targeting larger prey. Peter served as muscle for a crime syndicate and betrayed his crew by stealing from them. Frank, a former detective, infiltrated a crime family but ended up enjoying the illicit lifestyle. Joey, once an army medic, was discharged for becoming addicted to medication. She abandoned her son to become an underground doctor for criminals, accidentally killing a gang member during a botched operation. Abigail explains that everyone present has wronged her father or his gang, and she kills her father's enemies in a twisted effort to earn his love. She didn't unlive them upon their arrival because she enjoys toying with her prey. Abigail offers them a deal. If they release her, she'll spare 2 of them. Frank suggests killing her instead, enraging Abigail, who revises her offer, vowing to spare only the one who frees her. Peter, panicked, draws his fire weapon, but Joey and Frank quickly dissuade him, explaining that Abigail is lying. Despite their warnings, Peter tries to free her anyway, forcing Joey to fire a weapon him. The group then leaves the room, except for Frank, who volunteers to keep guard. After everyone else has left, Frank tells Abigail that he'll let her go if she tells him how to escape the house. Abigail instructs him to pull an Agatha Christie book in the library to reveal a secret door. Frank thanks her but refuses to release her. Abigail, however, effortlessly breaks out of the elevator, pushing Frank aside and dancing towards him menacingly. At that moment, Joey arrives and breaks the wooden planks off a window, letting sunlight flood the room. The light instantly burns Abigail's hand, forcing her to retreat into the shadows to regenerate while Joey and Frank make their escape. The entire group regathers in the library, staying within the protective sunlight streaming through the high windows Joey had previously opened. Sammy, relieved, realizes she isn't transforming into a vampire. Frank then pulls the book Abigail mentioned, but nothing happens. It was yet another one of her deceptions. While Frank throws a fit, Joey desperately tries to break down the wall, but her efforts are in vain. The lack of candy is making her increasingly anxious. Joey confides in Sammy, explaining that she left her son behind to get clean, intending to use the money from this job to start fresh and rebuild her life. The word reset sparks an idea in Sammy's mind. If they can locate the power source, she could potentially short-circuit the locks. The group splits into 2 teams to search the house. Suddenly, music begins to play again, and Abigail, using her bite-induced connection, takes control of Sammy. Sammy quickly transforms into a vampire and viciously attacks Peter, sinking her teeth into his neck. As Sammy feeds, Abigail speaks through her, taunting Peter until his life fades away. Abigail then forces Sammy to dance in her twisted ballet, relishing in the macabre display. When Joey and Frank arrive, Sammy hides her face, but their suspicions are quickly confirmed when Sammy reveals her transformation. The duo immediately flees, with Sammy hot on their heels. They take refuge in the library, where Abigail uses Sammy's voice to explain her hatred for the room. It's where her father turned her into a vampire. Joey quickly grabs a tray and reflects the sunlight onto Sammy, causing her body to explode in a burst of flames. At that moment, a secret door in the library opens. Though Joey and Frank suspect it might be a trap, they decide to take their chances and enter. The corridor leads them to the mansion's control room, where they encounter Lambert, who reveals himself to be a vampire as well. Lambert grabs Joey by the neck and begins to explain everything. Abigail turned him 2 years ago after discovering he had helped Frank infiltrate the gang. She threatened his family, forcing him into servitude. Now, all Lambert does is lure her father's enemies to the mansion so she can torment them. Lambert informs them that he has already alerted Lazar about the situation, and the crime boss is on his way. Lambert harbors a deep desire to unlive both Abigail and her father, so he offers to turn Frank into a vampire if he agrees to help him. Frank accepts the offer, leading Lambert to knock Joey out before biting Frank. As Joey regains consciousness, she watches in horror as Frank undergoes the painful transformation into a vampire. Afterward, Lambert orders Frank to feed on Joey, but instead, Frank betrays him, stabbing Lambert with a stake and causing him to explode. Just as this happens, Abigail arrives, intent on attacking. However, Frank, now fully transformed, overpowers her and begins drinking her blood. Seizing the opportunity, Joey rushes to the control panel, deactivating the mansion's security measures and retrieving her phone. She dashes down the secret corridor, but the exit is locked. As Frank finishes feeding on Abigail and drops her lifeless body, Joey leaves a heartfelt voicemail for her son, expressing her love and regret. Frank finds her and shoves her back into the library, where he begins to brutalize her, throwing her against the furniture with his newfound strength. Joey's attempts to defend herself are futile, as her punches do nothing against a vampire. Frank grabs her by the neck and hurls her to the ground, but just as he's about to finish her off, Abigail, weak but alive, catches her in time. Abigail pleads with Joey for help, promising to let her go if she helps unlive Frank so she can see her son again. Despite their combined efforts, Frank proves to be far stronger than both of them. After knocking Abigail down, Frank stabs Joey in the shoulder with a stake, pinning her to a pillar. He then turns back to Abigail, biting her once more as she raises her pinky to remind Joey of their promise. With Abigail incapacitated, Frank removes Joey from the stake and bites her neck before tossing her aside. When she awakens, Frank uses his vampire powers to try and force Joey to pick up the stake and harm Abigail. However, Joey is only pretending. She turns on Frank and shoves him, allowing Abigail to leap onto him. During the ensuing struggle, Abigail reveals that Frank's powers haven't fully developed yet, so he cannot control or transform Joey. Taking advantage of the distraction, Joey retrieves the stake and together, she and Abigail manage to overpower Frank, driving the stake through his heart. Frank explodes, leaving only ash behind. Joey, worried she might transform into a vampire, is reassured by Abigail that it won't happen because Frank is dead. True to her word, Abigail allows Joey to leave, urging her to find her son. As Joey prepares to leave, someone suddenly grabs her shoulder. It's Lazar, Abigail's father. He introduces himself, claiming to have gone by many names over the years. Though he initially intends to unlive Joey, Abigail intervenes, defending Joey for saving her life when her father wasn't there. Lazar, in a rare display of gratitude, kisses Joey's hand and allows her to go. Joey rushes back to the van and, to her relief, discovers one last lollipop. She savors it while driving away, finally free to return to her son. And that's a wrap of this movie review. Share your thought about the movie in the comment section. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support this channel. Thank you for watching.